It's Rut and River.
Yes.
Correct.
R-U-T.
I rest my beard hair on it.
And then you know you're there.
Like a nice, gentle little pillow for my beard.
Right.
And then I'm all up in it.
Oh.
I'm like Kobe beef for sharks.
Can I ask you, what made you guys call me up about, well, this?
That's what tickles our fancy.
Exactly. Okay.
Thought the Rocky Mountains would be rockier.
John Denver is not accurate.
Man.
A guy like you, who has absolutely no clue, and I can hear it in your voice, that, I mean, you're a blank canvas. I mean, I can just start with you like from scratch.
You're going to tell me, a grown man, you're telling me what lure to use and how to fish?
You guys didn't snap your whopper plopper off either, though.
Sorry, I blew up over that.
And we are back. You are listening to the Rut and River Pursuit podcast. We're sitting around the Sonic Campfire. Boom, there it is. This is Reality Outdoor Radio, where our mission is to get you in the outdoors by connecting you with the skills, products, and people you can trust. I'm Ryan. Who do I got with me?
I'm Kyle.
I'm Will.
This is Dave.
Guys, this episode is brought to you by FINS Fishing. FINS offers premium braided lines that are made in the USA.
Nice.
And they are custom designed for your specific application. I'm talking about whether you're punching mats.
I love punching mats.
I know you do, buddy. I know you do. If you're doing that, you're probably using FINS original PRT braid or slinging a topwater lure with the shock-absorbing line. You'll be fishing with a premium super line that is engineered for one specific purpose.
What's that, bud?
Helping you catch more fish.
Yeah, buddy.
And we could use it.
You know it. FINS also offers a braid specifically designed, in my opinion, for Stevie. It helps reduce wind knots.
That's awesome. He's terrible.
Uh-huh. And they've got one that replaces the steel cables for your downriggers. So follow them on Instagram or Facebook by searching for FINS Fishing and learn more about their products, or go ahead and place your order at finsfishing.com. Remember, FINS fishes better.
Yeah, buddy.
You know, guys, speaking of braided line and FINS Fishing,
Yeah,
Speak
buddy.
away.
I got a special treat for you guys.
You brought some downstairs for us.
Yeah, what is it?
No, actually, I got a
You're
couple
gonna need
spooled
like-
up in my truck, but
You're going to need like a case of it if you're giving gifts out for us. You
Yeah.
know, we don't have a
I'll
small
take
group.
3 of each.
it's even better. On the line with us right now is the braidman himself.
What?
Dave Burch from FINS Fishing. Dave, how are you?
Doing great, thanks, and I really appreciate you guys having me on the program.
Oh, no problem at all, Dave. It's our pleasure, truly.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
And, you know, Dave, I did mention as we were getting things started here, we got to know a little bit about FINS Fishing. We were introduced basically to you and your product through Mike Paoni. So I want to make sure I give a quick shout out to Mike.
How you doing?
Special guest of the show, good friend from way back. We ran into Mike at the Great American Outdoor Show at the T Island booth. So
A couple years ago.
he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And if you do get a chance, go back and check out those episodes because Mike's
one of
always
those-
a good time to talk to.
Yeah, he's one of those Italian guys.
No,
Yeah, absolutely.
he's from Florida. He sounds just like he's from Florida.
The north part of Florida.
The very north part of Florida.
Exactly.
It's Luigi.
And by the way, Terry Allen is a big fan of FINS, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's been on the show also.
Terry's a good guy.
So
Yeah, good friend of mine. Yeah, we did a lot of the Florida sportsman shows together back when we were learning how anglers want to use braid and learning what we needed to do to craft our product that we offer now to suit anglers' needs. So
well, I heard you should use braid on a T. Allen rod.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Quite the combo.
Yeah. I really do respect that group of guys because it seems like they were all part of some level of innovation. They fish every day. They have a finger on the pulse of what is new and what is now.
Right. What's working?
That's true. Those guys have been very helpful to me. I've been braiding these type of lines, making them for other people, mostly back in the early days. That's been 25 years. So I've been right in the heart of this braided line segment since it was relaunched with the advent of the no-stretch super fibers. And so we've been doing this. I've made like I mentioned to you guys off the air, I think 35 different brands of line that we've made for the facility. Many of the big names that everybody's gone out and used over the years was actually made at our plant. And when I wanted to launch the FINS brand, and I went out on the road, and I've done consumer shows all over the country, Alaska, all the way down to San Diego, and all, from up east, all in Maine, all the way down to the Keys. So I've really done my homework, and I know that different regions require different things in their braids, and that's why I can't make a single style. But working with guys like Terry Allen and Mike Paoni, that's how I learned to craft our product.
Yeah, I believe it. They're great, and they speak so highly of your product, which, if they have any kind of influence on it, I know it's going to be good stuff. So I can't wait to dig into this. This is something that, for me personally, will have. I started fishing again 2 years ago. For as much as we do,
right?
And you just call me a braid man. I don't. What else is there?
There's braids that'll suit every need. Of course, sometimes you need a leader.
Yeah. That's me.
So, Dave, what got you started in the braided fishing industry?
Well, that's a bit of a long story. I'll try to make it short. Growing up in southern Ohio, my brother and myself, my older brother, we worked at a braiding company, and we did that all through our early years and through high school and college. And in doing that, my brother stayed there and became president of that large braiding company. Long story short, the guys that started the first national brand of fishing line made out of this high performance fibers was a company called Safari Land in Southern California, making a product we all know, spider wire.
Oh, wow.
And,
there you go.
Those guys tracked us down, and because of our expertise, and asked us if we would build a facility specifically dedicated for making their product, because they were they didn't have that production capability themselves, and they were shopping around and had a few small companies helping them in different parts of the country, but they made it hard for them to control production and quality. So they asked us if we would be willing to do that if they guaranteed us a level of business for a few years, and we said yes, and that was the birth of our company, BBS Tech. And BBS Tech is, like I mentioned, has made many braids for many companies, and that's where I learned what braid should be. And FINS is the result of that. I've got 7, soon to be 8 styles of braid that we offer, and they're all quite unique.
Wow.
And they're all produced in the U.S., correct?
Yeah, we make them at our plant here in northern Kentucky. We're a few miles from the greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport. That's a mouthful. We're only about 2 miles from that airport, 7 miles from downtown Cincinnati, but we still feel like we're from Kentucky. We like Kentucky. Bourbon, basketballs, and horse racing.
Yeah, buddy.
In that
Go
order.
wrong there. Now, Dave, you mentioned that you guys have 8 different styles. I'm sure that was probably a real bummer trying to test those out and put them to the test. I'm sure that was really difficult.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the excuse to go fishing. Pack up some samples and let's go out there and see how they work. So no, that's the fun part of the job, and getting the chance to fish in different environments and meet people all over the country. It's been a wonderful experience. It's a lot of fun for us to go out and do that.
I bet.
So I hate to get to the nitty gritty. And I haven't fished a terribly long time. Or have been this aggressive in fishing as I have been in the last couple years. But one thing I want to know is, why braid over some of your more traditional monos or things like that? Why braid?
Well, the simplest reason is the no stretch. That characteristic is what really made braid popular because you feel everything that's going on. Monofilament stretching as much as it does, it doesn't translate the energy of the contact of the lure with something up the line like a braid will. You can feel things that you've never felt before when you make the switch from monofilament to braid. And then on top of that, it being 5 to 6 times stronger than a same diameter nylon monofilament line, it gives you a chance to work the fish more with smaller gear, have more fun in the catch. So that's the real reason. Mm-hmm. And when you hook one, you own it. It doesn't get away too often.
Not because of the line, anyway. I still have them getting away pretty often, but that's my own fault. The testament that I have, my own personal story about that is I switched up the braid about the same time that DK over here got me into tube fishing. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And as I'm bouncing those tubes along the bottom, I actually, and DK, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember talking to you about this. I could tell the difference between, the traditional strike that I was getting on a lot of the swim baits where they're hitting it, where when it's a tube, it's like they just, they suck it up.
Sure.
And I could actually feel that in the braided line. I could feel that movement.
Really?
And that light thump almost, but I could feel it pull away like that. And I was like, okay, braid's it.
Time to switch.
Yeah, that was reminds me of a story when we first were starting out, and this wasn't with the FINS brand, this was with the category in the early days. And one of the most effective displays I remember was, I think it was the sales manager for Spiderwire at the time, I believe, and set up some reels, identical reels, identical rods. They were nice bottom fishing rods, nice and stout, and it was at a boat show, and they put some square bottom 5-gallon pails about 60 feet away from a line that they put on the floor, and they had monofilament on one of those rigs, and on the other they had braid, and those pails were filled with water, so they about 40-pound pails. And they would ask people to step up and try to bring that pail, slide it to them across the floor, hand them the rig with the monofilament. And no matter what they did, they couldn't get that thing to move. And they've been jerking and snatching at it. And then they'd hand the new rig with the braid on there to the same person and tell them to try it again. And with the first pull, they'd slide that pail all the way to them in a lot of cases. So that's why you use braid.
Yeah. That should be on a commercial, like on QVC or something, for dudes.
QVC for dudes.
Yeah, monofilament stretches up to 80%. So that's
wow.
So that's the difference right there. You can't feel what's going on. So once you get accustomed to using braid, it does require some different technique. You have to hold your rod tip up because now the give has to be in your rod, not in the line. And you also have to reduce your drag because the line being so stout, you can damage your equipment if you're not careful. Particularly in the early days of braid, when the gear wasn't adapted to the product. And of course, now the many manufacturers make great reels dedicated specifically to braid.
Yeah, I remember when I first started using braid, most of the reels you had to put like a backing of some sort of mono onto the spool. And now a lot of manufacturers are coming out with a little bit of a grip in the spool, so you don't have a spinning effect of your spool in the braid now. So like you're saying, like the manufacturers have stepped up to the technology of line now. It's just great.
Yeah, absolutely true. So the modern world, you can use a lot smaller equipment than you could back in the day when you had to use monofilament, particularly when you're going out for some of the larger species in saltwater. That's really where it made the biggest impact initially. But it's very suitable for all types of fishing. I understand you guys are getting ready to do a lot of trout fishing. Is that true there in Pennsylvania?
April is trout of control for us, so
we're getting trout.
That was actually going to be my next question: is what are my options if I wanted to change my trout setups? Because those are the only ones pretty much at this point that don't have some braid.
Well, there's a lot of personal preference involved in the braid that I would suggest to somebody. First of all, I'd want to know, are you a spinning reel guy or are you a bait catcher?
I am definitely a spinning reel guy. My son won't let me touch his bait casters because I bird's nest them every time.
Spin cast, I got 2 products that I would recommend for that. Actually, 3. It depends upon, again, your personal preference. You like a real limp line, or do you like a line with a little bit of body in it?
I've been asking him this for a long time,
and I haven't decided. Honestly, I would tell you I probably haven't fished enough with it to know the difference.
Well, there you go. Okay. The one that I would recommend for you under those circumstances, I think is our newest line. It's one of our newest lines. I can't remember exactly which one we did first, to be honest with you. But 40G, the 40G product is one that is made completely differently. Matter of fact, we're real proud of the fact that we won the Best New Product Award at the Australian Tackle Trade Show, the equivalent of ICAST here in America.
Nice.
FINS 40G, it's our best line. People say, what's your best line? I'm hesitant to do that in a lot of cases, but I have to agree that in most people's mind, I think after they feel the 40G, they would say it's the best line that we offer. It's the best line on the market. The reason is that when you feel this braid, it truly does make a lot of people take a much closer look. They think it is a monofilament that they're feeling. It's that smooth. And it doesn't have a coating. We achieved that wonderful feel by a 9-strand construction. It's a composite line. Half the weight of it is in the form of a core in the middle of the braid. And then we overbraid that core fiber extremely tightly with very tiny fibers on the outside. A traditional braid has a weave pattern of about 20 crosses in an inch, but the 40G product has nearly 60 crosses in an inch. And the purpose in doing it to give it that super smooth feel, but it's firm like a nylon monofilament line, and it won't flatten out with use. That structure won't allow it to flatten, and the color that we apply is actually on that core fiber, so the color will never go away. Actually, the line's the only one on the market that gets much darker in color when it's wet.
Nice.
Wow.
So it's an amazing product. Mike Paoni absolutely loves this line. I heard that he sent you guys some of his private stash. But the thing about 40G is that it's even smaller and stronger than other lines that we've made in the past.
I'm going to be calling Mike Paoni about this. This is news to us.
As soon as we're done.
Yeah. So
and you call this the 40G?
Yeah, FINS 40G. See, I have a tendency to go down the rabbit hole, guys. Just smack me upside the head and tell me to shut up.
No, this is great. This is what we need. Because
the reason we call our product 40G is in the textile industry, we speak of the strength of materials in a term called tenacity. Tenacity is measured in grams per denier. Grams of strength per denier, denier being a unit of measure of weight of a fiber. And so in the world of superlines, and we've made a bunch of them, braids traditionally have a tenacity of about 26 to 32 grams per denier. And with the FINS 40G product, what we were trying to achieve as we developed the product was get it up to 40 grams per denier. And while we're developing that around the factory, we would keep talking to the guys in the plant and say, hey, have you got to the goal? Did you get to the 40 grams per denier? And when it came time to name the product, we just decided, hey, let's call it 40G.
We hit the 40G.
That's perfect.
That's awesome.
I love it.
For example, the 15-pound has a physical diameter of only 6/1000ths of an inch, which is the monofilament equivalent of about a 2-pound line.
Wow.
And the 15-pound package, that's the package tensile, but the actual product itself will break on average around 26 pounds. And the reason that we chose to label it something other than that was because you can't fish without a knot. And even though it may break at 26, you got to tie that knot, so you're probably back down in the 15-pound range when you're using it as a fishing line.
Which is why I need it for trout. Perfect.
No, it's real popular with the trout fishermen in the Sierra. Been selling it out there. We've been working California for the last year pretty hard. It's proven itself out there among the trout fishermen up in the mountains.
We never, being on the East Coast, we never think of California being a big trout area, but you're the second guest in a row, actually, to mention, how hardcore Californians are for their trout streams.
There's lots of different types of fishing out there. I just recently did the Fred Hall show. I always do about 3 or 4 consumer shows a year, and I try to spread them around geographically so that I can stay abreast of how things are changing in the anglers' minds. And it certainly does. We're getting smaller and smaller in the lines that are popular. When we first started the superline category 25 years ago, it was 30 and 50 pound exclusively, 30 being felt like, why would you need anything smaller than that?
Right.
And now it's very common for us to sell a great deal of 5 pound. And it's probably the most popular overall right now for us is probably still 30 pound because, we've got some guys fishing some pretty big species with 30 pound though. The inshore fishing crowd, which I have to say is my personal favorite style of fishing, is fishing for reds and specks down in the Gulf. And but down there, it's very common to use 10 pound or 20 pound.
I was always under the mindset with braid to go with 30 pound. And then I started talking to some people, and it's like, well, if you go to 10, you have that smaller diameter as one plus, but you have more line spooled up. So if you do have a run,
you get run on. Yep.
You have more there to play with. So that's always it's funny to change your mindset on that because you're just used to, I had 8 pound equivalent, which is like about 30 pound braid compared to mono, and you're like, oh, that's good enough. But no, you can keep dropping down, and then you have more line on your spool.
That's very common these days. Exactly what you just said. Yeah, that's seems to be the way things are going.
Yeah, the coolest setup I think I've got right now is the stuff I'm using for smallmouth on the river. It's like this super ultralight 7-foot setup, and I'm running a 10 pound braid on that with just a little bit of 6 pound fluoro.
Sure, but that sounds right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so much fun to catch a big fish on that rod. You just fight them and fight them and fight them.
Yeah, and you asked me what would be the right line to use for trout fishing. Yep. That's the one that I first mentioned was 40G. But the other two that I would think would be a good candidate would be a product that we call Wind Tamer, and I know that you guys are somewhat familiar with that, but I would use one of our very small sizes of that. We actually make the Wind Tamer style braid in many small diameters. We do a 4, a 6, an 8, a 10, a 12, and a 15. All the sizes are available. So it starts out at 4 thousandths of an inch with the 4 pound and jumps up 1,000th of an inch per tensile.
Could you go into some detail real quick about what is it that makes Wind Tamer?
Yeah, what separates Wind Tamer from the other braids?
We're asking for a friend.
Sure. Okay. Wind Tamer is actually our most popular style of line that we sell in the States. We sell, actually, most of the fins that we sell is sold internationally because we started pushing our product there before we did in America, and that's another story. However, Wind Tamer is the most popular here in the States for us. I believe to date we have well over 400 charter operations that use it exclusively. And the reason that they love the line is because it does what it says. It's Wind Tamer, and the reason it works is it's a round structure. It's got body. The body does not come because it has a thick coating on it of some type. We actually physically alter the braid structure after we have it woven and colored, and we do that with we'll call it a heat process. I don't want to give away all of our trade secrets,
sure,
but what we do is it results in a modified fiber that is firmer and rounder. The braid structure will stay round for a very long time. And what's really nice about Wind Tamer, and the reason that it does overcome the wind, is because of that round structure with a little bit of body. But if you think about it, that's what monofilament is. It's got a little bit of body. It's a round structure, and it's firm. And that's what Wind Tamer's hand is like. That's what we call the way something feels in the textile industry. We call it hand. But the hand of the line feels a lot like a monofilament, and it stays that way for a long time. So the big issue on a lot of braids is they get too soft on the reel. It doesn't pack well when you retrieve it. And if you don't remember to put some pressure on there, that's where you get into trouble. The line will, when you get a hit on something, it buries the line, and the next cast, it blows up, and you got the bird's nest that nobody wants to look at.
Right.
And Wind Tamer, when you retrieve it, it naturally packs nice and tight on the reel. And it is very popular among the charter guys for that reason, because many times their clients aren't accomplished anglers, and they don't have to spend their time straightening reels out all day. And it lasts, a lot of charter guys get a whole season out of it, with one spooling. And they may turn it around once, but they'll get a whole season out of it. And in the Wind Tamer, you'd probably be quite surprised to know that one of our very most popular colors is pink. And
what? I saw that in your product line, and I was like, why would you have pink?
Well, it's actually a happy accident. We sponsored a women's tournament in Texas one year, and they were raising money for breast cancer, and we made some pink line for their ladies' captain's bags.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it really caught on because it has a function, which we didn't anticipate. It turns out that we made a line that had a really good high-vis properties above the water, but in the water, when you put it side by side next to a traditional green braid, you can actually see the green line easier in the water than you can the pink. And I had to go out and see that for myself, because I started fielding phone calls after that women's tournament, guys wanting to buy pink line, and I kept asking them why, and the answer kept coming back, because it works. And I thought, well, how many guys will buy pink? And if it works, they do. We sell a lot of pink line. It's kind of like a signature color for us in the Texas area of inshore fishing.
Oh, that's awesome. I never would have thought that. When you're looking above water, it's extra high vis, and then I guess it defrags the light enough, less than the green. So that's cool. That's incredible.
Yeah, happy accident, but we sell a lot of it. And then the third braid, you asked me which one of our styles would be good for your trout fishing. The third one I mentioned would be a newer product also called sling braid, and bet you can figure out where I got the notion for that. You got that right. And sling braid is a super silky, very soft line. In the tradition of what I keep hearing and among the bass guys, a high-end Japanese braid. And I always want to get a baseball bat and go after somebody. Okay, not that I can do anything against Japan, but why is it a high-end Japanese braid? What? Because somebody told you that? I like American products myself. But so we got a super silky, very soft, very supple, great tensile strength, very durable product in sling braid. But it's limp as a noodle, and that's what some guys want. And it's quiet as can be going through the guide eyes. That's another thing that a lot of the bass guys seem to be a little twitchy about. How about you guys? You like a nice, quiet line?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I actually would have never even thought of it, but now that you mention it, the braid that I've been using, you can hear it as you're retrieving the lure. So, yeah, that would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah, it translates into the water, and some people think it'll spook the fish for them. So, yeah, they want a real soft line, particularly if you're finesse fishing, flipping and pitching close by a boat. That's why it's so popular among the bass guys. We're starting to catch on. A lot of guys are liking the clean braid.
Man, I never even thought of some of this stuff. It's perfect.
That's why we're talking to the braid man.
I know. It's not just a clever name. He is the braid man. I like it.
Yes, I am. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've been all over the world selling braid, making braids. I've made braids for companies in, I guess, last count, like 10 different countries.
Nice.
And I've been attending the European equivalent of ICAST for the last 12 years. And it's been an education, Of course, over there, the number one species is, do you guys know?
Carp.
Yeah, you got it right. Seems so funny to me the first time I went to the show, and you see the guy walking up to you to talk about line, and he's got his fishing sublimation shirt on, and looks like your typical American angler, and then he starts talking French. and catching carp, and kissing them and putting them back. They name their carp over there. It's quite the honor. The more they are caught, the harder they become to catch. And so the guys over there really like to go and catch one of the famous carps.
Oh, wow. Huh. I believe over there they call them lay carp.
I believe you may be correct.
We don't know.
Don't know for sure.
Check your eggs on that one.
Ryan's making an assumption.
So you guys need to go out and I'll send you some wind tamer. I'll send you some sling braid and some 40G. They're not your father's braids, but then again, I probably made those too.
Well, that's good because I think we're running out of wind tamer. But so how? Just an overview. I've always wondered is how is braid made?
Well, we've got over 1,000 braiding machines at our facility. The braiding machines that we use were engineered, designed by my brother and myself. They're kind of unique to us, but at its heart, they're all pretty much similar. You got a metal track. You got some devices that move along that track and on two different courses, and they miss each other. And there's gears underneath that track that drives these devices that we refer to as a carrier. You hear people talk about how many carriers is that braid? Well, the carrier is the device on the braiding machine that actually holds one of the ends of yarn as it's woven. And so you can have 4 carrier braids. You can have 8 carrier braids. We actually make some 16 and some 32 carrier braids.
Ooh, that's got to be cool to see.
The 16 carrier is what we use to create hollow core. You guys probably have heard of the braid style hollow core, and it's open like a shoelace, and it allows you to slide your leader material inside the braid structure, and that way you can have a very small profile knot. It was really started as the guys fishing for large species offshore, and they couldn't get the knot to go through the roller guides because they're too large. So that's actually Jerry Brown, a fellow that I know pretty well in Oregon, is the one who pioneered the concept of making hollow core braids.
So that was the intent behind hollow core then, is for that low profile knot?
Yes, that was the initial intent. That's exactly.
I didn't even realize that's why hollow core was made. That's cool.
Yeah. Yep. The first guy that I know of that ever made braid out of these super fibers is a gentleman by the name of Russ Eisor. Russ passed many years ago, but Eisor line still exists in Southern California. They were the first to market with a braid made of this material, that super material.
Dave, I got a question for you, another line recommendation.
Brace yourself.
A lot of the fishing that we do is in, rivers, or I fish at the Jersey Shore lot off of jetties. What line would you recommend that has a high abrasion resistance?
Well, all of the lines, because they're made of those super fibers, are pretty doggone abrasion resistant. But the one that's probably the most abrasion resistant in our collection of lines, probably the XS product, which was our first 8-end braid that we offered, XS for extra smooth. And it's a little bit beefier because at the time that we first introduced our XS product, we didn't have available to us some of the smaller size yarns that we have today. So we never changed the construction when some newer size yarns became available, because people have fallen in love with certain sizes, so we didn't want to screw with it, if you will. But so the 10-pound of the XS is a little bit beefier than the 10-pound of the other, like sling braid, the newer 8 carrier that we've done. Mm-hmm. But it's not just the being a little bit beefier. We've put an extra process on it that will improve its abrasion tolerance. So XS would be my answer for that question.
Okay, cool.
It's very popular. Somebody mentioned punching earlier. it's very popular. The excess is in the Delta of California, in the northern part of the state, where they have hydrilla plants, and the roots are identical in color, by coincidence, to what we call coral orange XS. So it's become real popular there because when it punches through, you can't tell it from the roots of the plant.
Oh, nice. Hey, Dave, when you get a chance to get away from the factory, what's your type of fishing? What's your favorite type of fishing to kick back with?
Well, honestly, I'm going to go with that inshore fishing down in the Gulf, but I do a lot of fishing. We have a couple of wonderful lakes here in Kentucky. We have Cave Run Lake, which has some good muskies in it now. We've got Lake Cumberland, which is one of the premier striper fishing lakes in the country. And there's a lot of good bass in there as well. Kentucky lakes. So we're blessed by having a lot of good fishing opportunities here in Kentucky, and I like to get out and do that. But my favorite's down in the Gulf because I just love to eat those reds.
Oh, they are delicious fish, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Go down to Louisiana, catch some reds, and have some blackened fish. That's one of my favorite things. And I just did the Louisiana Sportsman Show not long ago, too.
Speaking of shows, anything that's been premiering at shows that hasn't been out really on the market?
I haven't seen anything remarkably new this year. I've seen a couple new brands, but doesn't look like any new technology in the line category. I've done 3 consumer shows thus far this year. I've done the Suffer New York show. Did the Fred Hall show in Long Beach, California, and did the Louisiana Sportsman show. And the International Sportsman's Exposition in California missed it this year, but we were present there.
You definitely get to all types of fishing when you get around.
Absolutely, because you have to know what people want in order to supply it to them.
Dave, what would you say the oddest species that you've heard anglers say that they've been targeting while they've been using your braid products?
Well, actually, one comes to mind was it's more of a style of fishing than it is going for an odd species. And I can't remember the species they're going for, but the fishing was so odd is what comes to mind. And there's a tournament or a series of tournaments that happens in England, and these guys will draw a lottery to find out which section of the bank of the river, and I use the term loosely because a lot of them look like big creeks.
Yeah.
But they'll have a section of the river bank that's allocated to them, and they'll have a multiple-day tournament, and they won't be able to fish but anywhere but that little section of bank that they've drawn by lottery. And what they do is they get extremely long poles that telescope, not like anything that you've seen, more like akin to a cane pole, but then they tie some of these really tiny braids on the end of it with hooks that are so small I don't even know what number you would call them. And they take little tiny bait, and the fish that they catch over that 2 or 3 day tournament, they'll talk about they'll win the tournament with a 1.25 kilos, a catch for the whole time. They're the fish that they catch and are proud of look like a small bait fish for most people here in America.
Oh, wow.
That is pretty interesting.
That's a different level, you know what I mean?
But we have fishermen all over the world using our product. I just got a real interesting blurb today off of Facebook from our distributor in Kuwait, and Mucklid sent me a photo of a very beautiful yellowtail that he caught today on our 85-pound 40G. And,
wow.
It looked to be probably a good 150 pounds at least.
Wow.
So,
I never would have thought about yellowtail in Kuwait.
Well, it's interesting. There's a lot of money, obviously, for recreational activities in that area of the world.
True.
And those guys are just now catching on to how much fun sport fishing can be.
Yeah.
And they got the means to outfit themselves well. And the fisheries there haven't had much pressure on them because sport fishing is just not a thing. And so they're pulling in some fish that are just unbelievable. So it looks like a good place to go fishing if you got the ability to get there.
I think Will's going to need to book us a trip.
That is not miser weather.
No, not at all. I'm going colder.
Now, Dave, something I would like to hit on real quick, and I don't want to dive us too deep back into the technical aspects of building all these lines. However,
having
take another dive.
One of the lines that we talk about each week on here is the fact that you guys offer something that you could use to replace steel cables on downriggers.
Yeah. It's real common these days for guys to do that. The steel will kink and rust, and then you have to replace it. Braid doesn't do that. Braid doesn't sing as much as some of the steel does, I've been told. I haven't used it on downriggers myself. I don't have occasion to do downrigger fishing very often. But we sell more and more of it all the time. It's a nice, easy replacement. And ours, we actually put a color on it that makes it look like it's a steel gray. So it gives you that familiar look, even though it's made of polyethylene fiber. Yeah.
And which braid is that you would recommend for the downriggers?
Well, we call it downrigger braid, actually. Downrigger braid.
It's not just a clever name.
We try to name our products what they do to a large degree. We got 150 and 200-pound tensile in the downrigger braid, and we sell it in 300, 450, and 600-foot lengths. It's pretty popular for us.
Very cool.
Nice.
So, Ryan, if you need any other names or, interesting.
I'm going to need somebody to help me figure it out.
What is it again?
Dave, what would you use the wind tamer for?
Wind tamer is the go-to braid for lure fishing. Really, it is. You can't go wrong. It does particularly well in a bait caster. And I learned this going to the Texas marketplace. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys have ever fished in Texas, but they kind of look at you down their nose sometimes if you get a spinning reel out, and I was told by one of the reel manufacturers one time that 80% of the bait casters that they made and sold in America were sold in Texas. Wow. And the first time I was down there learning the market, I asked one of the anglers, I said, how come all you guys use bait casters down here? He looked at me kind of funny, turned his head, spit, and said, because we can.
I'm going to have to start doing that when I see Ryan. Yeah. And I'm carrying a bait caster.
It's like what my son would do.
Anyways, so we caught fire down there with the wind tamer because, it's not uncommon for an angler to want to use 50-pound braid on his bait caster because he feels the need to so that it doesn't misbehave on the reel. And I heard that story over and over again. And I said, well, try this one, try this wind tamer because it's round, it's firm, it's got some body, it's going to behave differently. And it proved that it did behave differently. And we got a lot of guys down there in Texas that throw 20-pound wind tamer on their bait casters with great success.
Well, Dave, I think I'm getting a signal over here from DK. It looks like we are actually bumping up on time. This is ridiculous. I got all kinds more questions.
Well, ask away.
Well, no, I think what we're going to do, Dave, we like to end the show with a segment we call the Fast Five. So what we're going to do is throw a couple questions at you. First thing that comes into your head to answer it. There are no wrong answers. We like to tell everybody. So just first thing you think of.
We'll tell you if they're wrong.
All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started off. Dave, what's one thing you can't live without in the outdoors?
Hiking in the Southwest.
Nice.
Ooh,
that's a first.
That's a great answer, though.
I like it.
It sounds hot.
I had the opportunity to be a national park ranger in the Grand Canyon when I was first out of college. So it's my love affair. I love to go to the Southwest.
Dave, what would you say that you're most proud of in the outdoors?
Or
making the best fishing line.
Or just in general.
Yeah, what are you most proud of?
Making the best fishing line on the planet.
Yeah,
I think you checked
I really
that.
believe that we do set the example for the other guys. You know, the 40G I mentioned earlier, it's been mimicked now by a couple of the majors. I saw a multiple strand from Rapala, and I saw a multiple strand from Berkeley 2 years after we launched 40G.
Nice. It's always good to be mimicked.
This is true. Best form of flattery.
True.
So next question is one thing you do daily to prepare for your outdoor lifestyle.
Hike. I walk 3 miles a day just to keep myself limber enough to continue to hike and do what I love to do. I'm 65, so I got to do that or I get stoved up.
Okay, what is on your bucket list for the outdoors?
Walking the Appalachian Trail right through your hometown.
Oh, you're going to be right in our backyard.
You better call us.
When I think of Harrisburg area, I think of the Appalachian Trail because I worked with a guy one time that was from your part of the world, and he's the first one that tried to convince me to walk part of the Appalachian Trail with him. But I was working at the time, so I couldn't do it.
It only takes a couple months. I mean, like 5.
Nah, you could do it in 3. If he's doing 3 miles a day now just for fun, he could get it done in 3 months. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. So question number 5. I think I may know where this one might go, but you could always throw us a curveball at sea. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Seeing my products that I design to suit a certain application being accepted and used and relished in that application, you know, so that when I design a line for a certain thing and it works out, it makes me really happy, you know, because we work hard to make those things happen.
Well, we'll start texting you some pictures of some success with that then.
Absolutely. I appreciate it very much.
We're going to make you really happy, Dave.
I love it. It was a bit of a curveball. I was honestly thinking you were going to say pretzels.
Something like, yeah, I love pretzels.
Sometimes pizza.
I just figured with the braids and the pretzels and all, I had to throw pretzels into the mix.
I promise you, there will be pretzels and pizza whenever you come through Harrisburg on the Appalachian Trail.
That sounds like a fair deal.
Yeah, I'll make sure of it.
So, Dave, where can our listeners find you?
Well, they can find us at finsfishing.com. Real simple. FINSFISHING, finsfishing.com. That's our web store. We ship the same or the next business day. Also, we're in a lot of stores, not in your part of the world, but down south. Anywhere in the Gulf states, you'll find our product in pretty much all the tackle shops. And like I said, we're working in California, and this next couple seasons, we're going to focus on freshwater. That's why I'm happy to talk to you guys. I was up there in Suffern, New York, and introduced a number of anglers up there that are freshwater anglers to our products, been following up with them, and are absolutely loving them. So
that's great.
To a store near you soon.
These Susquehanna boys need some good braids.
Yeah. I say we do everything we can to make sure they get in these shops around here.
We'll start convincing people.
Love it.
All the help's appreciated. Don't forget that affiliate program.
Oh yeah. Why don't you tell our listeners about that affiliate program?
Sure. We started something quite different. We've made it possible for anybody to help us sell our product. What we've done is, if you go out to the Fins Fishing website, the web store, on the bottom there's a link to affiliate program. And the affiliate program, if you fill out the form, you'll receive a dedicated or unique URL with our logo on it that you could put on your social media pages. You can put it on a website if you have one. And if your friends, fans, listeners, clients, whomever clicks onto that, and it leads them to our web store, and they wind up making a purchase of Fins branded product, the software that we use for our web store will track that, know it came in from your URL, and it'll, when we get to $100 earnings for you, and it's based on 15% of the sale of whoever clicked through. And when you get to $100 credit, we send you out a check. It's that simple.
That's awesome.
share the link and make some money.
There you go. Well, Dave, it was awesome to talk to you. We can't wait to stay in touch with you. And good luck fishing, man.
Yeah, good luck, Dave. Appreciate it, bud.
Hey, good luck to you guys, too. And again, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
So, DK.
Yeah, bud.
When we aren't getting some of Stevie's wind knots out of his other line.
Yeah, right. And we're not razzing Mike PN for not sending us the good stuff.
Yeah, which is going to happen. Where can they find us?
You can find us at rutandriverpursuit.com. Also, check out all the social medias for Rut and River Pursuit Podcast. Check us out on YouTube.
The YouTube.
You can also listen to our podcast on all of the podcast applications, especially Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Love that Spotify.
So I feel some hunger pains setting in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Smells a little smoky in here.
I need me some burn ends.
Well, that's good, because there'll be some burnt ends, because this episode is brought to you in part by Smoke in the Grove Barbecue Competition in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania, being held July 26th and 27th. Smoke in the Grove Barbecue Competition will have more than 60 pro teams competing for cash prizes and a chance to go to the annual Jack Daniel's World Championship Invitational in Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Ooh, wow.
And the American Royal being held in Kansas City, Missouri. These are big competitions for barbecuers.
Those are the cities I think of and just make my mouth water.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. They know barbecue. There will also be backyard competitors competing for other cash prizes and plenty other events. With great food, great music, and great people, Smoke in the Grove Barbecue Competition looks to create a tradition that we hope you and your family become a part of year after year. Man,
I know, I'm going back.
It should be a good competition.
Love me them burn ends.
Where do you go? SmokingTheGrove.com.
Yes, you do. Check it out. It's a free event to attend. So come on out, enjoy yourself. Lots of things to do.
It's another one of those events where you feel like a rock star. You're like, you just walk right in.
They waved me right through.
They told me I was a VIP.
Love it.
Guys, it's another great week.
You know it.
Rig 'em weedless.
We'll see you.
See you. What is it that makes Wind Tamer?
Yeah, what
Tame the
separates
wind.
Wind Tamer from the other braids?
We're asking for a friend.
Sure. Okay.
I believe over there they call them lay carp.
I believe you may be correct.
Oh, we don't know.
Don't know for sure.
Check your eggs on that one.
Ryan's making an assumption.
All right.
Great answer.
Yeah. Makes
I should
plenty
do
of
that
sense.
too.
Yeah, I would like to try to start doing that.
Maybe we should start around this table like a half mile to begin with. Then we'll work up
Around this table, I'll get dizzy.
No, I mean, the people around this table need to start at a half mile.
Let's just start with like a flight of stairs or something easy.